with the news from Embracer CEO saying layoffs are just a natural part of the industry and the industry has to learn to accept them. The debate topic for this week is when Satoru Iwata took a salary cut, do we think that was a noble act? Yes, no, or indifferent? And we will start this with Josie.
Oh, shit. Okay. Yes, I think it was noble, obviously. You take a salary cut to pay for your employees' wages. You got to make sure they're putting food on their table. You got to make sure that they feel comfortable in their job, safe and secure, not like they're going to lose at any second. I think it's very noble. He's a very smart guy for that because he knew that eventually there would be a big success down the line and he would make his funds back and more so. Well, that's that's what
Face
I say.
music
See,
reactions plus coming in, saving my ass, saying no because there's a law in Japan where CEOs are obligated to do this for a company. It is a law.
What has Sony
So,
been doing then?
see, I chose this topic so hopefully I would be able to catch you or Sean off guard and not have that knowledge. Is that it is a law. A Japanese company has to basically do three different things before they can do mass layoffs. And they can only do mass layoffs if the company is basically on the verge of full bankruptcy. And one of those is CEOs and executives have to do a salary cut. And when that news broke, that when Iwata was doing it, it's just no one in the Western media was familiar with this law. So it was viewed as such this noble act by the individuals at Nintendo. But it was really something they had to do. There are a couple of other things that the companies can also go. I believe it is somewhere in, I'd have to look up the specific three. But since with Nintendo it was just a salary cut that everyone still references to this day, whenever there is a layoff, people say, oh, look what Nintendo did. They took a pay cut. But it never has the mention of it had to happen.
I think that shines a very different light on the situation. Okay, so to that I say, if that law isn't in place, is Nintendo doing that? They're taking a pay cut or they're laying people off. I think they're laying people off.
Yeah, they're a business, so I'd assume so too.
I think that's just the nature of it. That's not to say that Iwata is a terrible person or any company that lays people off are terrible people. You got to remember one thing about this is that humans are stupid. And the video game industry has a lot of stupid humans in it because a lot of these companies grew in a time where most companies were shrinking, where people were trying to find $5 in their couch cushions because they weren't working. During the pandemic, video games skyrocketed. Everyone was playing video games. Everyone was stuck at home. For some reason, a lot of these companies didn't necessarily have the foresight to be like, hey, this probably isn't going to last forever. And so they started, doing things outside of the norm. They started kind of growing companies and stuff like that. It sucks, but it's unfortunately a part of business, not just the video game business, any business. Every sector of the world has layoffs. You know what I'm saying? And I guess it kind of hurts people more when it's video games because we kind of view it as this, pure and organic thing. But it's not, man. It's commercial. It's Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? If a movie studio lays people off, are we going to see the same sort of reactions that we see to video game companies when a bank lays, a bunch of people off? Do we see that same sort of reaction? I think we just kind of develop this love relationship with the video game industry and some of the people in it that we think, oh, that'll never happen. That'll never happen to my favorite company. But things change. Companies shut down. Companies restructure. A lot of companies from when we were kids, Midway, Acclaim, huge companies, they're no longer in business. So I don't think that there's necessarily like a right and wrong answer to this sort of thing. I think the main thing is it's turning into a life lesson. I think the main thing is you always got to worry about yourself. You know, and it might sound selfish, but you can't help others if you can't help yourself. You have to be able, once you're good, then you can spread your wings, help your friends, help your family, you know, do this, do that, the other. But, you know, it's just, you know, it's a part of life, unfortunately. But whenever a door closes, a window opens.
Wow. Nate, what is yours?
Yeah,
On what?
good one, Nate. Oh, you're supposed to have like a nice little anecdote like I did.
Yeah. I think your anecdote covered everything well enough.
Hey,
All right, I'm gonna run a poll. Was Iwata noble for taking a salary cut? Yes, no, indifferent. Is that good?
but how are people gonna? The cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, once
I
you
know.
realize it's a Japanese law, you could still say it's. I mean, that's the thing. It's not to like besmirch the man's reputation or anything
No.
or the act. It's just
It's a
this.
fact.
This is a fact. This is how Japanese companies are run. This is why you never hear of Japanese developers having mass layoffs because it cannot happen.
They should bring that to the
There
West.
are there's too many regulations and laws in place to prevent that. To get fired from a Japanese company like a game development studio takes a lot. If you are a full-time employee. Now, if you are a contractor, that's a little different, but it's exceptionally difficult. It's not as flimsy as it is in the West. So, I mean, if you put up that as a poll, I don't see how one can say yes, no, or indifferent. It's just, it's a different country, it's different laws, it's a different culture. Everything is run differently. It's just at the time, a decade ago, when this happened, the Western community wasn't aware of that law. So we all viewed it as this noble deed of Nintendo saying, we're going to take a salary cut because the worker is so important, when it was just a case of, we have to do this because that's what law dictates to us. And the conversation, even I guess the legacy, the aura around that act would be very different if we knew the truth 10 plus years ago. Instead, you just see it referenced every time there's a layoff of, look what Nintendo did. Sony would do the same. Capcom would do the same. Any Japanese company would do the same. And this is the thing I've always struggled with, is that immediately after NCL put out those statements of we're taking the pay cut, Nintendo of Europe had I think it was in the air, 300 to 400 layoffs just a few months later. So it didn't go throughout all the regional districts of Nintendo. NOA still has layoffs. NOE still had layoffs. They shut down entire branches in Nintendo of Europe. It was strictly speaking for NCL. And people ignore what happened in Nintendo of Europe.
Well, because it's Mario, man. Everyone loves Mario.
All right. Well,
That's a depressing fucking ending.
yeah, that's
Crushing.
quite the
Nate's
topic
gonna be
for
like, Santa
debate.
Claus, go fuck yourself. He's not real. Fuck you. But yeah. Hey, there's a lot of hits on this show tonight. A lot of good shit. But hey, that's how I guess that's how we're gonna wrap things up here.